Hey guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. It's part two to my earlier video I made on my conversation with Dr. Umar Johnson's father, Mr. Jamal Johnson. And you guys probably should know his name by now. We shouldn't have to say Dr. Jamal, Dr. Umar Johnson's father, as a prelude to his name. I mean, everybody should know his father's name, but in case you guys don't know, his father's name is Jamal Johnson. And I actually had a chance to talk with him today by phone and get a chance to meet him and get a better understanding of his position with respect to Dr. Umar Johnson's movement. Speaking of, there's this question as to how a person should go about bringing about change in the movement, right? Should a person not make money, not profit off of the movement? Because, I mean, you think about it, it's kind of like a catch-22. It's like you want to bring change, but people sometimes fail to remember that it costs money to effect change. And with that, you have to take up donations, you have to raise money. Sometimes people create services and they sell it, so that you can get funding to bring about change. Everybody's saying, okay, what has Dr. Umar Johnson done? But at the same time, not even taking time to donate to his campaign. And then they criticize him, saying, okay, well, he shouldn't charge for his lectures. He should just start doing things for free. There are many different ways to go about it. Right now, apparently, people who have supported Dr. Umar Johnson, some anyway, not all of us, but some of his supporters are feeling like they got ripped off, like he is sitting on the money that he collected for the school. He raised nearly $1 million for the school, and some people feel like he is just sitting on the money, not doing nothing with it. But at the same time, it's like they're like, where the school at, and then they don't want to. They say that he shouldn't collect any more money. Like he should just offer his services for free. And I'm like, how can a person survive if they're not charging? You have to charge for your services and products, even if it's related to the conscious movement. Even if it's a charitable cause, even if it is philanthropy, is like you still have, there's money involved with that, even nonprofit organizations have a financial budget because it takes money to do things. You're very limited on what you can do with absolutely no dollars. It's like everybody has all these demands about what he should do, not even understanding that it costs money for the licensure for the school. He has to do inspections, purchase insurance, purchase the lease. It's like a lot involved when it comes to creating an institution, to build an institution, that you guys want to see something, I guess, tangible or physical, something that people can actually walk into, something that people can touch. Because people are like, okay, you can't touch education, but it's like education is priceless. And even when I was talking to Mr. Jamal Johnson, he said that he always asks, the youth, like, what has Dr. Umar Johnson done? Like, with the knowledge that you gained from listening to Dr. Umar Johnson, how has that benefited your life? And he said that one of the kids said, well, my life, I've actually gained a greater sense of self with listening to Dr. Umar Johnson. And I told him, I basically said that is something to benefit from. That is a gain. Can you measure that? Is there a way that one can measure, how much a person has got in tune with oneself and, gain a sense of self by listening to Dr. Umar Johnson? I don't know. That's a very hard construct to measure. And it seems as though just because people, we can't or have difficulty measuring change, people are like, what is he doing? But I told him, I said, even that is significant to say that he's doing something. He's like, well, no, that's not good enough, because with the knowledge that the kid gained, even with his self-awareness, he said, he asked him, okay, what have you done with that self-awareness? And then he's like, the kid had trouble answering that, right? Hell, even I would have trouble answering. It's like, okay, now that we have this self-awareness of who we are, a greater sense of self, more pride, how can, people are looking for action. They're looking for things that you can actually see. And sometimes you can't really see that. Having a greater sense of self can impact one's mental health, mental well-being, can impact their mood, can impact their self-esteem. So it matters. Now, those constructs, like again, like I said, it's hard to measure the impact, because how many people are actually gonna, like, of course, I'm sure you see like where a lot of people have commented saying, we love Dr. Umar Johnson, this and the other, but sometimes it's just hard to get those reviews in numbers, like to get the impact, to measure that impact, to get it in a quantitative data. That's more like, here I am using this terminology, but within science there's a thing called qualitative versus quantitative research. And so when you're trying to assess something and measure something, you can do it qualitatively, where you basically do interviews and you sit down and talk to people kind of like one-on-one and get information, or you can do it quantitatively, where you actually use a measure, a statistically validated measure that you can actually put the effect in numbers, something that you can actually measure, that's numerical, right? So it seems as though people don't really value the qualitative aspects of what Dr. Umar Johnson is doing. That's basically what I understand. People want to see numbers. And even, it brings up a good point, and I think it's worth listening to. It's worth Dr. Umar Johnson considering when it comes to actually fully, legitimately launching his school, is that you kind of do want to have those checks and balances in place, and you also do want to have those evaluation measures in place so that you can evaluate the performance of what you're doing at your school. It's good for a lot of nonprofit organizations to evaluate their performances. That's usually that's a standard practice within organizations, period, whether nonprofit or for-profit, is that they do these evaluations, quality measure evaluations, just to see what is the impact that they're bringing to the community. Specifically with nonprofit organizations, it's useful because when you can measure your outcome, your impact that you are affecting in the community, you can actually get donations, and you can get grants from the state and state, federal government, by showing them, hey, these are the numbers, this is the result. Well, again, like I said, qualitative data is hard, a little bit more difficult to convince people of qualitative information, like qualitative data that you collected from your impact that you've made, but it's still possible. People, reviews sell. I tell this to authors all the time, that I work with, self-published authors, is that when you look at a book on Amazon and click on the reviews and read the reviews, those reviews matter. People's reviews matter. And so on Dr. Umar Johnson's page on Facebook, I would say one way to assess his impact in the community is just to look at his reviews. And I believe his page is set up on Facebook where you could rate him, and just look at, just as most professional fan pages are, you can go to their fan page and rate that person, whether it's a person or figure, or a service. You can rate it 1 to 5 stars, and then write a comment on why you gave that person that rating. So I believe, I haven't really, I check his page frequently, but I haven't paid attention to the reviews. I hardly ever pay attention to reviews, but it's something to consider for a lot of you guys who want to know, okay, what is he doing? But I think it's obvious, to me it's obvious, because obviously I've been directly impacted by Dr. Umar Johnson, but there are people who have done video testimonials, people who have commented on his videos in his defense. So apparently they have been impacted. It's different ways that we can affect change. And I think that brings me to my next point, is that we have to be careful with trying to minimize each other's impact. It's like we're all trying to bring about change within a conscious community, but you have people, the infighting, like people are saying, oh, you ain't did nothing, or that's not affecting, that's not doing nothing. It's like we all can wear a hat. We all can play a role in bringing about change. We don't all have to do the same exact thing. Some people think that change should happen in the way of financial empowerment, like helping Black people gain financial independence, which I think that's more of Dr. Boyce Watkins' focus, which is excellent. But there are many different ways. Dr. Umar Johnson, he focuses on education and working with children and families, And I think that's perfect too, and so many different ways, I mean, that we could really bring about change within the African American community. It doesn't have to be limited to one thing, and it doesn't have to be necessarily tangible. Like I said, we live in a digital age, so just with digital technology alone, people who create videos, people who create these apps and create communities within certain apps that allow people to connect, that is creating change. If you're bringing the Black community together, if you're uniting people and getting people to open their eyes on certain issues and see things from certain perspectives, that is helpful, you know? But I get it. It's also helpful that we have checks and balances in place where you have people that say, hey, like quality assurance, basically saying, you know, what can we do to improve? Which is just as important, I think, to the mission. And I think that's it. That's it. That's the problem. Like, I wouldn't say Dr. Umar Johnson is opposed to those quality checks, but it's just a matter of who's doing it and how it's done. Because if he creates a video and you guys go and jump on his video and be like, oh, wait a money, oh, what you doing it, like, that's, to me, is totally inappropriate. If you are part of the movement, it's a way you go about it, and people wonder why people say that you're a hater. You are a hater because look at your approach. A person who is a supporter is not going to take that approach. A person who cares and who loves, you say, okay, you love a person. If you love them, there's a way you express that love. You don't have to be confrontational. There's a way you can get answers to questions that you have with respect to this leader without being confrontational. And then, like I say, it adds a whole nother layer when you take things to social media, because now you got public opinion involved. And it's almost as if you're turning your comment, when you comment these emotionally triggering comments, you are sequestering the attention of the community, the public. You are influencing the public. We know the power of like social media. When people comment on things, it's like it creates this whole train reaction of other people who comment, like, oh, you're right, it gets us nowhere. Like, we're back at square one. We're just going in circles. But to really bring about change, I mean, you have to put yourself in that person's shoes, and email them. Send an email. He may or may not respond, but there are different ways to express how you feel towards an individual. But you say that if you are for something, but then you going basically behind someone's back and making all these videos or creating comments that are oppositional, and excitatory, it's like, and inflammatory, it's like, you don't want to do that. For what? What is the point? And it seems as though there is like this fight for attention. Everybody's trying to be seen. People point fingers at Dr. Umar Johnson saying he's all about himself, it's me, but it seems like he's not the only one. It's a lot of people within the conscious community just want the attention, want the recognition. It's like, if their name isn't called at an award show, they don't want to go. They don't want to show respects to the next person who is doing positive things in the African American community. So it's like, how will we ever be able to unite? There's so many different splits within the conscious community. I was just talking about this when I was talking about psychology, how that's why we have so many different disciplines within psychology, so many different branches of psychology, because theorists see things differently. There were theorists and psychologists who were once part of one school, the same school, when they come out and begin to express and articulate their perspectives on certain theories, they clash heads. This is within a profession. So just imagine what can happen in any other discipline, in any other setting, And here we have it in the conscious community, where you have people that are just going back and forth with each other, to the point where they create different sects within the conscious community. Is that a good thing? Is it okay to have one conglomerate, one big community, right? But then different sects within that community that have different views? Because people say all the time, it's okay to have a different viewpoint. It's okay for us to disagree. But is it when you have these splits? It's like people, you hating. You know, you are pointing out things you don't like about that sect or that group of people, you know, in the conscious community because they believe this, they are against interracial marriage, so you want to point fingers at them. You're about integration and multiculturalism, so they point fingers at you. And when it comes to the common goal of us uniting, of us advancing the African American community, we get stuck because it's about these egos competing now. It's like it's a distraction from the goal. So that was the whole point in me basically responding to Dr. Umar Johnson's father's comment on my post, Mr. Jamal Johnson. I responded and I basically wanted to initiate a conversation and say, we got to just stop this. Like, I don't gain anything from going back and forth. He doesn't gain anything from going back and forth. Like, we're not gaining anything from fighting, you know, or hashing out our differences. But we do gain when we listen. And that's what happened today, this morning when I was talking to him. Like, I felt like I really gained by just sitting there and listening. I'm on break. Look how fast time goes. Are you freaking serious, y'all? Look how fast time goes by. Okay, my break is almost over. I'm taking this neuropsych class, biobasis of behavior class. We're talking about all kinds of stuff that y'all don't probably care about. Occipital lobes, parietal lobes, and ipsilateral, contralateral. It's crazy stuff that's really important to us, the work we do to conceptualize behavior, and because certain damages in certain parts of our brain can affect how we think. You know, no one ever takes the time to think about that. People just quick to say, oh, a person is stupid, or a person acting slow, or a person, you know, look at their behavior and want to point fingers, but it could be biological. It can, you know, be rooted in their brain, certain deficits that people have. And you never may know what motivated a person to do something, you know. But I still have much respect for Dr. Umar Johnson because I know, like, I identify with him. Like I say, he is where I am trying to be. He's already a doctor, a psychologist. I'm following in his footsteps, and I know the struggle that we go through as Black students, just facing the white people at the institution. And even outside of that, it's a whole nother layer of pressure from our own community, because you got people who don't necessarily believe in higher education. They're like, oh, you think you smart because you got a PhD, or, you know, you think you smart because you were a doctor. And it's just like all this finger pointing for what? That gets us nowhere. You know, it's like, you know, Mr. Jamal Johnson shared some things that really kind of broke my heart with regards to his relationship with his son. And it's apparent that they have a distant relationship, you know, but he said they love each other, apparently. I mean, he loves his son. That's his son, right? Every parent has love for their child. They may express it differently, but you can tell, obviously, he's concerned. I think the biggest thing is that, I even said this before in another video, that we have to make sure we protect ourselves, that we have a defense around us that can protect, you know, when we're out on this mission. Because we can't assume that, oh, we can just comply with the dominant structure and at the same time be able to go forward with our movement. It don't matter if Dr. Umar Johnson did not use any curse words and did not make any inflammatory statements. People still would hate him just based on the movement he is a part of. You guys have to understand that, and when you dedicate your whole life to a certain thing, trust and believe you're going to have opposition on many different sides. So that's inevitable. So to y'all to point fingers and say, oh, well, he uses profanity, or you can see his anger, and it's like, it's good. I think that that's just part of his personality, for him to show his emotion. It's healthy. You have to be able to regulate oneself, so you know not to let the emotions take over you and take over your message that you're trying to convey. But using your emotions and conveying, it's nothing wrong with using I do it all the time. I use my emotions to convey a message. You don't just sit there and act like a robot and be like, okay, so this is what we're going to talk about in the Black. No, you know, express yourself. Black people, we're very expressive. So are Latinos. You know, I live out here in Los Angeles, and it's over half, 50% Spanish population, and it's crazy. It took me a while to adjust to it because it's just different. Even at my job, you know, my coworkers are Spanish and they just have a different way of communicating. They're very expressive, very loud. You know, to the outside, they're like, oh, they are obnoxious or loud, but to them, that's just how they communicate. So based on the intonation of voice that you use, your facial expressions, your body language, it all communicates a message, and it's good. When I watch Dr. Mark Johnson, it communicates to me that he is a serious man. He's about his business, you know, and it hurts me when I see people attacking him. There's nothing wrong with questioning him if you have certain concerns, but it's all in how you do it. Comment on a video just to comment to say, oh, he not doing nothing. Like, what? You're not doing nothing. To me, that comment is not doing anything, but only motivating him to do what he's already doing anyway. It's like I said that early in the part one, that it's just a motivator. Seeing people say, oh, what you doing, or you ain't doing shit, when you are actually you're doing something, right? You're in the process of doing something. You've already done things for the Black community. And when someone asks you that question, it's like, that's just going to motivate you to see, okay, well, what else can I do? You know, because if you get asked that question enough, it's going to activate certain things in your mind and get the wheels rolling, get you to start thinking about, okay, what more can I do? What more do you guys want Dr. Mark Johnson to do? He's only one person. It's like y'all are putting a huge responsibility on one person to bring about change. He's only one person. Oh yeah, I was talking about the whole, I think about should people within a conscious community who are working as part of the movement, should they be compensated for their work? And I'm like, yes, it's okay for them to create a business around the movement. It's nothing wrong with that. I feel like as long as you're giving back, you're helping people, it's nothing wrong with that. I think the biggest issue was surfacing with how I see it with all these attacks against Dr. Mark Johnson. It's like, y'all, it's a crab in the barrel mentality. Y'all think, oh, this man is making all these coins, he got all this money, he making money from the Black community. It's like, y'all don't want to see Black people achieve anything. It's sad. No matter what a person does, a person can try to do so-called everything according to how the Black community wants them to do, and y'all will still find something negative to say about him or about that person. You know, so to me, I'm just saying, hey, we got to find a way to sit together. Mr. Jamal Johnson told me about this award show that I keep forgetting the guy's name, but it's a conscious award show that this guy in New York, he's based in New York, he's put together a show to recognize conscious leaders. And so I asked Jamal Johnson, I say, are you invited? Are you being recognized? And apparently not. Like, the show is focused on the younger generation, you know, and it seems as though everybody got their opinion about it, right? I feel like if you're going to have a conscious movement that pays tribute to the leaders that are bringing about change for the Black community, you can't forget the elders. That's the most important. That's like at any award show. They always recognize the legends, the people who've come before the new generation. Always got to pay tribute to them, you know, because they laid the foundation. And I think that's also probably part of the problem, and the reason, probably part of the reason why Dr. Umar Johnson and his father have this distance, you know, because it's like, Dr. Mark Johnson, he's so focused. He's like, he in his own lane. If anybody say anything opposing, it don't matter. Like, if you just have an opposing viewpoint, you know, he ain't trying to hear it. But I also think it's not just that, but it's how you present it. Because I'm kind of the same way. I'm quick to shut a person down. That's why I think I am, like, supporting him so much, because my personality is not much different than Dr. Mark Johnson, to be honest. You know? Like, I feel like it takes a lot to build a brand. You know, and when you build a brand with the work of your hands, he been out there hitting the ground doing those lectures. He out there speaking. His words alone and just doing those lectures is what helped him create that brand. So he's saying something. I mean, he has nearly 300,000 followers on Facebook. That's not easy for a person in academia to achieve. Look at the average PhD person. They don't have a fucking 100,000 followers on Facebook or any social media platform for that matter. So I'm just saying, y'all, this black man, just give him his credit. And if you expect him to do more, then there are ways you can get him to do more. You can support. But y'all putting all the responsibility on him, obviously that's not bringing about change. Because you're just saying, okay, what are you doing? But you're not saying, what can we do? That's a better question. How can I help? You know, I see that you are doing this. You're doing XYZ, Dr. Umar Johnson. You've done this, but I see where you can need help with these areas, right? So instead of just trying to attack him and like you a god over him, which none of y'all are a god over Dr. Umar Johnson, you can take a different approach, because you saying he ain't did nothing, his approach is not effective. Your approach apparently is not effective, because how has the movement progressed? You know, we still don't have the school. This is supposed to be a team effort. Now, someone raised the question about, okay, with Dr. Umar Johnson's personality, you know, he's kind of like a one-man show. He wants to be in control, and he likes control, which I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. You know, as long as you're doing it right, you know, he make no mistakes, and mistakes gonna happen anyway in any organization. But he is the head of his ship. You know, and it's, y'all don't understand, when you build a brand and a business that's worth something, you don't want to mess that up. You don't want anybody to mess that up. So you're very careful about who you hire. You know, yes, it's important to delegate tasks, but you just don't do that indiscriminately. Like, you really have to be in a position where you have things set up. Things got to be set up, because there has to be some accountability when things go wrong. And you're giving people these tasks to do. That's how a lot of times like movements get dismantled, because then you invite the wrong person. All it takes is one person to destroy an organization. So I think with these, y'all not helping. Y'all saying, okay, well, y'all want to see this school, but do you not see that your role in delaying the school? Because if he's under so much attack, you're not making it easy for him to trust. Think about it. When you're under attack, naturally, this is a natural defense mechanism for your body to resist that attack, to develop these defenses that arise, you know? So you're one looking at him saying, why he's so defensive? Why he's so guarded? Hello, look at the situation he's in. He's not in a situation to be able to let his guard down. It's difficult. Eventually he's going to have to, you know, to move things forward. You have to let your guard down a little bit. You have to be able to entrust your enterprise with other people, because nobody can do it by themselves. But y'all not making it easy for him to do that. You know, I just feel like it has to be a better way for us to get along with each other within the conscious community, and just stop all this infighting. Apparently what we see in the conscious community is just a reflection of what we see in the black community at large. It's just a microcosm of what we see on a larger scale within the black community. And it's not that Dr. Umar Johnson did anything terribly wrong. I feel like people are just nitpicking parts about him, because a lot of what you see is projection. So when you see people saying he didn't do nothing, they are projecting their own insecurities, their own insufficiencies, the things that they are lacking, because they haven't done anything. So it's much easier to point the fingers at the other person and say, okay, I'm going to put the blame on you because there's this lack in the black community, knowing that the problems in the black community are millions of miles long. So you expect this one man to effect that much change? Even one program, you can have a very solid program that you create, but that one program is not going to bring about sufficient change within the black community to the point where y'all can say, okay, boom, that program, you know, is just the top selling, the top best program in the world. It doesn't work that way, because the problems are so big. Does that make sense? When we have years and years of conditioning within the black community, and the problems, and it got so freaking sky high that it's systemic now. Almost you have a system that is kind of existing, operating by itself. And you expect one person, not to say they can't effect change. Of course, one person can, but y'all just expect this one person to come in and just boom and just change everything. That's like the demand you guys put on Obama, which I feel is so unfair. We have to stop doing that to our leaders, to the people who um, we see as prototypes, so to speak. You know, like they're on the forefront. Dr. Mark Johnson's on the forefront. Obama was on the forefront. He did some things, but the fact that, you know, you can still look to your left and right and see that there's things that need to be done in the black community. You want to say, oh, Obama didn't do nothing. Like, to me, that's, y'all need to stop. That's, I feel like that's no wonder there's so many divisions within the community. And even that happens in relationships all the time. Nobody is perfect in a relationship, in a romantic relationship. But what do you hear people say? Oh, you did this. They just point out all the negative. Nobody focus on the positive what the person is doing. It's all the attention is on what the person is not doing or what they're doing wrong. And if there's any quick way to break up a relationship, is to sit up here and criticize a person over and over and over again about what they are not doing right. That's what we see with Dr. Mark Johnson. I'm like, I know he about tired of these y'all people saying, what is he doing, this and the others. Like, what are you doing? And then the people that do come up and say, oh, well, I'm doing this, okay. But the things that they said they're doing, they make it seem as though what they're doing is so much better than what he's doing. It's like you're trying to compare what you, like, that makes no sense. How do we get into this whole boxing match trying to compare, oh, well, my change is more important than your change? Because I do marches, I do protests, that's more significant. Dr. Mark Johnson out there doing protests, which he should be, so he ain't doing. It's like, how effective are protests? Oh, there's my classmate telling me we started. So I gotta go, you guys. But I'm not with the back and forth. I make these commentaries on these topics because it hits close to home to me. I only have 4 more semesters left in my PhD program right now. 4 more semesters left. And seeing this kind of thing unfold is definitely preparing me for when I become a licensed professional. You know, because yes, it gets tricky when it comes to social media. He's using social media as a platform to build his organization. People hating on that. It's like the man can't get no kind of credit whatsoever. So I encourage you guys, you who are watching this, if you support Dr. Mark Johnson, truly, just share positive things that he's done, ways that he has influenced you below in this video. Share this video with your friends, and let's just put out positivity, okay? And Dr. Mark Johnson, if you're watching this, I still got your back, man, because I get it. I see the big picture, and I know you're just one person. You are a human being. I don't expect you to be anything more than just a human being. And I see that you are just you're fighting. You're doing what you can. You're speaking to people. I value education. I value your scholarly contribution that you've made to the black community. You know, it needs to be published in journals, the theories that you've created. People want to question it, but guess what? They question Freud, and he has been learned by every single psychology student across America and even internationally. You know, that's the thing. All the greats get criticized. Every last one of them. That's the reason why I told Mr. Jamal Johnson that you should be very proud of your son, because he's not bringing shame to you. Trust and believe you're going to go down along with him because he's your son. You're going to go down in history with him as one of the greats, because not only that, even Dr. Mark Johnson's father said the things that he's doing. So not only is Dr. Mark Johnson doing things for the black community, but also Mr. Jamal Johnson is doing things for the black community. So both of them are going to go down. It's no matter of who's doing the most, we're not comparing. You can't compare. Sometimes you can't even measure the impact someone has caused. That's just like if you give a homeless person a sandwich. You can't necessarily measure the impact that sandwich is going to affect, how it's going to affect that individual. As I said, you have to do a longitudinal study to be able to measure the impact that one thing can do for an individual. You just never know. You never know. So we got to get out of that trying to compete with each other and wanting recognition. And the biggest thing that came up that I realized from the conversation is that it's about safety, you know, and people's lives are at risk, apparently. You know, there have been threats against Dr. Mark Johnson, against his father, even more importantly. And, you know, I think that's a big concern. You know, but I've been threatened. People make threats all the time, you know, because it's just hatred. People, oh, I'm gonna kill you, you know. Like I say, when they rated my video, you guys go back and watch that "Should Oprah Become President" video that I made. It went viral, but it also got rated by the alt-right group. These KKK racist ass motherfuckers making threats, saying what they gonna do to me, call themselves trying to auction me off or something. Like, I don't care. At this point, my spirit is so strong. Like, I have the same fearless spirit as Dr. Marjan. I'm fearless. That doesn't bother me, you know. And I feel like if it's my time to go, y'all, I'm gonna be remembered either way. So I gotta go. But love you guys and catch you guys in the next one. Spread positivity and peace. Bye.